Hey guys, Mr. Bullock here. This lesson is on scatterplots. So let's first take care of this easy board problem. A survey records many variables of interest for the U.S. Postal Service. So which one is categorical? Okay, this one's pretty easy, you guys. So the county of residence, I think that's it, you guys. The number of people, no, that's quantitative, living in a household. Years living at that address, another quantitative. Age, another quantitative. Basically, if it has a number, it's quantitative, otherwise it's categorical. So total household incomes before taxes, another number, so it's definitely choice A. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and take care of scatterplots. Here we go, scatterplots. Okay, here's a strong positive association. The reason why it's strong is because they all are pretty close to a line. If they're kind of scattered all over, then it would be a weak. And the reason why it's positive is because it's going up to the right. Think of slope of a line, like the slope of a line. Here's a strong negative. Again, it's strong because they're pretty close to a linear relationship, and it's going down to the right. Here's a weak association. In fact, it doesn't have, it had, it's really no association. There's nothing, they don't associate at all with each other. They're just scattered all over, and it's weak. Okay. All right. So look at each figure and describe the scatter plots. All right. And all these figures I pulled out from the books all over places. How about this one's figure 3.2 on page 128. All right. I just want you to be able to describe that scatter plot. Okay, now look at those points. It's definitely going in a positive direction because it's going up, and these are pretty darn close to a line. At least so far they look like that. So I'm going to say this one's a strong positive association. Okay, that's what I want you to recognize. Okay, this figure comes from page 168. It's figure 317. All right, told you they're all over the book here. Okay, this one, and we'll come back to these graphs, the one before also, you guys. So this one here, just look at the scatter plot. Don't worry about everything in here just yet, right? Just look at the scatter plot. Okay, it's definitely looks like it's going down, so it's a negative, no negative association, but it's not really strong, so I'm going to say this one's a weak negative association. Okay, how about this one on page 185, figure 322? All right, what about that one right there? Okay, don't worry about what they represent yet, but just look at all the points right there. Okay, this one is it's really weak, and it doesn't have any association at all. Okay, and we'll talk about that graph a little bit later. All right, so state SAT scores. Okay, so check this out. Will the percent taking the state SAT help explain the average score? So think about this. The higher, say California, I live in California. Say California has a higher percentage of its students taking the SAT than, say, New York. So do you think with the higher percentage taking the SAT, their SAT score would be higher or lower? Well, we'll talk about this more when we get to it here, but this example shows the relationship between the percent of state seniors who take the SAT and the state's average SAT math score. Okay, so the percent who take the SAT is going to be the explanatory variable, and the state's average will then be the response variable. Okay, so now let's look at figure 3.1 on page 124. Might not be what you think right here. Okay, so check it out right here. So here down here is the percent of graduates that take the SAT. Okay, notice that the more students taking the SAT, the lower their scores are. Well, we'll talk more about that in a little bit, you guys. But so for example, basically, you guys, the eastern United States are an ACT testing schools, and it's not so much anymore. But in the past, in the western United States, were SAT schools. So people that wanted to come, say in New York, they wanted to come back west to take schools in the west. They would take the SAT scores, okay, and then and people who wanted to go back east would take the ACT scores. All right, so anyway, so the lower percentages, say New York only had 20% taking the SAT. Well, typically, you guys, they were their sharpest kids taking the SATs because they wanted to get into schools in California. So they didn't have all the kids taking the SATs. Like California has lots of kids taking the SATs, and many of them aren't even going to college, or maybe they're just going to a community college. They don't need the requirements of the SAT. Anyways, okay, so describe that scatter plot right there. Okay, so here we go. So it's a weak negative association because there's nothing really linear about it, and it is going down. Okay, so it's not too much of a straight line, and it is going down towards the right, so it is negative. Okay, so list any reasons you might think that helps explain that the higher percent a state has taken the SAT, the blank SAT math score is. Well, I already told you that, the lower the SAT math score is. Alrighty, so, excuse me. All right, and that's it. This is a pretty easy lesson on this. And so if you're in my stat class, I would like you to do that as your homework assignment. Okay, that's a pretty easy one. Take care.